Here are 12 online reviews of the audiobook titled, The Power of Habit. Written by Charles Duhigg and narrated by Mike Chamberlain. 1. This book is an exercise in word vomiting. I hate books that substitute anecdote for substance. The stories in this book are absolutely ponderous. Worse yet, you have to sit through these dull, laborious stories only to realize, the author rarely connects the story to the points he's trying to illustrate. For example, the chapter where he talks about the success coach Tony Dungy, using the power of habit to turn the Tampa Bay Buccaneers into Super Bowl champions, never actually explains exactly how or what Tony did. It's a somewhat inspiring story with absolutely no payoff for the reader of this book. I went back through the chapter twice to make sure I didn't miss it. The author makes some vague references to cues and payoffs, but does not adequately explain how to put these theories into action. I therefore cannot recommend this book. I suggest you take a look at Atomic Habits by James Clear, or even better, Mastery by Robert Greene. These books contain the substance worthy of their titles. 2. Boring. This book consisted of a bunch of stories and examples involving habits. Some key points were made, but 75% of this book was just about these stories. A lot of them were harsh and negative news that I could have done without. This book could have been summed up in about 20 minutes but was insanely dragged out. I would recommend reading The Compound Effect instead. A better book on habits. 3. It's okay, too heavy in ideology. Very poor in terms of quality and substance, written by a left-leaning wannabe academic who probably isn't aware how much his ideology clouds his conclusions. Edited review, after thinking about it. It really seems like the epilogue was added at the direction of the publisher to include the things people expected to get from the book. Most could read only that, to get what they wanted. 4. Meaningless stories that shift randomly. I could hardly understand anything that the writer wrote, because he always shifts through different examples and talks less about the research behind our habits. Why we do the things we do. How can we overcome them and find practical solutions to them by implementing the knowledge we acquire from the book. It's just my own opinion, but I found nothing useful from this book. A complete waste of time. I would recommend Kelly McGonigal's The Willpower Instinct instead of this one. Duhigg is investigative reporter while McGonigal is a research psychologist on the topic, and the difference comes a lot in the writing. 5. Habits exist. Very simple content expanded into 10+ hours of listening. Not well formed. Spent only appendix on how to address habits. Rest of book was drawn out lit review of what evidence there is that habits exist. I kept listening hoping he would get to how to address them, but it didn't come until the appendix. Wouldn't recommend this book. 6. Nothing helpful but the last chapter. This came highly recommended, but I found it a waste of my time. It's also depressing listening to so many stories about people addicted to smoking, bad relationships, drinking and gambling. Where are the examples of good habits? There's nothing in here which I had not heard before. Chapter 11 has a couple tips for changing habits, but I could find that on YouTube. The narrator spoke clearly, but this voice and cadence are annoying. I won't be recommending this book. This was my first experience with Audible. I'm not impressed. 7. A must-read and a required practice. I like this story, which starts explaining what habits are and how they play in our individual behavior, to then look at society at large to show how they shape our culture. This is a book for anybody who would like to modify habits, but most importantly, understand other people and society in general. It can be useful for coaches who would like to impact their clients' wellness and performance. 8. New and very helpful information. I've made a lot of changes in my life over several decades. Some were addictions I have successfully left behind. I have studied beliefs and behaviors extensively, but have never viewed them through the concepts of habits as described in this book. I found the way habits are explained, deconstructed, and replaced to be fascinating, and am looking forward to applying. A must-read for anyone interested in seeking to create their best life. 9. I envisioned a lot of myself in this book. I recently underwent some changes in my life this past year, and I decided I wasn't going to live my life the way I used to anymore, which is living by other people's opinions and fears. I decided to take control of my own life, but have had struggles with my habits. Little did I know that about 2 months prior to starting this book, I had been on the path to doing things that are stated in this book. To summarize, this book, which by no means is fulfilling enough for you to not read this book, is that this book contains a ton of reliable real-world factual experiences from a diverse group of all sorts of situations that you can and can't imagine yourself in, but you can use these tools in this book to apply to your journey of transforming your habits into the person you have always wanted to become. Good luck on your journey to being you. I have lived a good portion of my life not being true to myself and who I really am on the inside. Don't let this be you. Start now to be 100% unapologetically you all the time, no matter who or what is happening or a part of your life. 10. Well written. Well performed. Author uses stories to illustrate and reinforce concepts, bringing something very concrete and memorable to abstractions. Mix in scientific facts and evidence, and the content is very clear and persuasive. Voice-over talent does a great job of bringing the stories to life, providing great dimension with his voice. Subtle variations in tone to help differentiate the quotes of those interviewed from the background narration. Typical business books are accompanied by dry voiceover or strain technique by the author who is not a professional voiceover artist. This voiceover artist does a great job of making the book easily followable and entertaining, thus helping get the concepts across. I would search out other books voiced by him. 11. Very interesting. I love how this book is based on scientific research. Very interesting and complex topic, often overlooked in everyday life. The main chapters in this book seemed somewhat little related to each other, there was no smooth transition between them, but all of the chapters provided enough examples so that you knew what the author meant and see the connections between them. A very good book, recommended it to my friends as well. 12. Great introduction to habits and changing them. I really love the book. Originally I thought it was going to be on, of course, the power of habits, but more so on actually changing them, best practices and so on. I will say the stories that were provided were great examples of the extremes of habits, the roles they play, the impacts that they can have on us for better or worse, and overall, how to acknowledge what you do because of habit and what part triggers it. There is a great breakdown on the habit loop and how habits are formed, as well as the key components and their roles. Thank you for watching. Please, do not forget to subscribe, like and share this video. Tune in for more online audiobooks reviews.